Hey and welcome to MhM Media Reacts. I'm Christian McDonald. Today I'm joined by Greg Smith
Yo, yo, yo.
and Kevin Allen.
Hey,
And today we're going to discuss DC Comics Week 5 of Rebirth books. So opening strong this week we had the second issue of Aquaman. That was definitely a step up from the book has been improving each issue. It wasn't big on the Rebirth issue, but the first issue was solid, and this issue we really saw it delving in and tackling characters on a deeper level than we'd maybe seen this relationship be tackled between Aquaman and Black Manta by in anyone possibly. The issue overall is reasonably strong, but it has this one scene that really elevates the whole thing. That it delves into Aquaman and Black Manta's relationship. It delves into what they mean to each other and almost how defined they are by each other, and how locked into this antagonism they have to each other. And I don't want to go too much in detail on that and give away the whole issue, but it gives a really in-depth look at who these characters are and how defined by each other they are, and it's very clever, and it definitely elevates the issue and makes it a much stronger issue, and it definitely sets a good precedent that this run stands a chance of having a lot of strong character moments and really being memorable and meaning something down the line. So moving on to another book that was, I believe, reasonably strong. We had a second issue of Batman. Kev, what did you think?
I thought it was really good overall, but it did just catch me off guard immediately from the start, because the great concept that we were left with in the previous issue just immediately takes a hit because the direction is completely different from what anyone could have expected. But it wasn't really in a good way. It removed the conflict from what was a really intriguing situation to me. I do think that there's still positives for the direction that we've got instead, because it'll be interesting to see Batman sort of seeing if Gotham and Gotham Girl are up to the task of actually protecting Gotham. So in that sense, I did still really like it.
Yeah, and Greg, how did you feel?
Yeah, I agree. It was a really strong issue, and it did continue on from the first issue in that sense. What I did really enjoy, though, that you didn't see in the first issue was the characterization of Alfred and Jim Gordon. Like, Alfred was hilarious. I just thought he was brilliant. Honestly, like, I didn't really find it myself. I didn't think I'd be laughing too much from that book, but I was, and mostly just because Alfred was being like so sarcastic and full of banter.
Yeah.
It was kind of like what we seen in the movie versions with Michael Caine. It was kind of like it got a little bit of influence from that and put it into this new issue. So yeah, I enjoyed that, and Jim Gordon kind of continued that banter with Gotham and Gotham Girl once Bruce done his disappearing act. And again, that's a little something you could maybe reference back to the movies. But overall, it was strong in nearly every sense. And with Kev, I would have liked to seen a little more from the actual plot. It just kind of left us hanging, really. And I didn't address that straight away, but I mean, yeah, overall it was still a really good issue. So I don't think we have to worry about it, being one of the weaker titles. It looks like this arc overall will be a strong one going forward.
Yeah, I do agree. I think it's still definitely strong, but it was weaker than the previous issue. And its biggest problem was, one, the strange 90-degree turn it sort of takes from how this arc had been sold to us initially, and that outside of that, this issue felt mostly like set up for where the one's going, more than much really happening in it. It was kind of interesting to see Batman struggle with his relevance so quickly, and again, that 90-degree turn that I think we all completely expected Batman to be the only person certain of his relevance, and everyone else doubted it, and now we've almost got the opposite, that insofar of the main cast, he seems to be the only one doubting his own relevance. But although speaking of Gordon, Greg, you did make me think there was a moment in that where one of the aside comments he makes is about them all wearing masks and stuff, and it did lead me to wonder, so in Rebirth, are they sort of having this subtle doing away with of disconnecting it from some of the things that came before, like Gordon having been Batman and stuff?
Well, that's what I wondered, because as soon as he said that, I was like, well, Jim, unless you've lost your mind, you were Batman just like a month or so ago. So yeah, I have no idea what they're doing with that. I think it's a bit dumb to really try and forget that happened.
Well, we know that Rebirth is trying to change continuity subtly, and I don't know if that's what they're doing there, or it might just be he didn't want to acknowledge that time.
Yeah,
Right?
I mean, I mean, I don't know if he wants to tell two complete strangers that are trying to be superheroes that, yeah, I was once Batman as well. But that's
Yeah.
a story for another day, kids. So I don't know if that's how he wants to. I want to address that, but I just thought it was a bit odd and it was a bit of a plot hole. But yeah, I mean, apart from that, to be honest, I didn't see it as a massive issue. I just kind of
No,
like
it was just
it maybe raised an eyebrow, but that was
yeah.
about it.
It just gave me cause to question if there was a larger ramification, or if he was just saying it to like lighten the mood or whatnot.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I think that continues with the banter really that kind of filled that scene. It certainly didn't hurt the scene by
No, it didn't.
mentioning it. Yeah, I mean, it was so small that it had no severe impact on the rest of the issue. But
No,
yeah,
no,
I don't
yeah.
know if that will be the only kind of hint we see at that, or maybe Bruce and Jim will have a conversation down the line that will maybe address that
Yeah.
further. I don't know, but.
No, it definitely wasn't a problem with the issue for me. It was just the larger ramification type thing. Is this a sign of these things no longer being a factor for Rebirth, or will they still have happened and we'll see them be talked about later? But
The
moving
main
on to
well, just before you move on, hold on. I think yeah, like you're saying that will if that factors into if we are kind of forgetting what happened. The main thing that will really address that, in my opinion, is when the Joker appears, because it's what's he going to look like, and is any of his last because that was a massive story. Will any of that be addressed? And that's something we need to be on the lookout for, because if that kind of stays the same, then I imagine the whole Jim Gordon thing will be as well. But then if they just forget that this whole death of the family thing happened as well, then we really are, just picking and choosing what we're taking from previous stories.
yeah. So moving on for another book that I think is the strongest it's been so far in the Rebirth lineup. We had the second issue of Green Lanterns. How do you feel about that, Greg?
Yeah, I feel great about everything apart from that Simon Baz guy. He can just get to. But yeah, all joking aside, it was a good book and it was the strongest issue so far. It was Jessica's book though. It really did focus on her past. You got to know her character a little bit more, and it was just a good book. It obviously showed you where they were going with it, with regards to the whole entire plot and where all those kind of angry zombie like beings, what the point of them being in it was. Yeah, to be honest, I really don't. I enjoyed the book, but I don't have a whole lot to say on it. It was Jessica's book, and it was good to see her backstory kind of told a little. I imagine most people reading this were already in favour of her anyway. I don't know many hardcore Simon Baz fans out there. I know Kev's in the closet about that, and he tries to act all tough and mean, but he's actually like his #1 fan. But yeah, so this might hurt your ears a little, Kev, maybe your eyes as well. But it was Jessica's book, and Simon Baz just took a back seat, and that was a good thing.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure somewhere out there's someone that loves Simon Baz and loves that he's that one lantern that doesn't trust his thing and carries a gun. But
I just said, Chris, it's not someone, it's Kev. He's right there. So don't have to try and avoid the subject now. We're letting this all out.
But yeah, I do think Jessica is definitely the stronger character of the two, even in what we had in the first two issues. And this issue was definitely strengthened by focusing on her. And I think in the first two issues she was an interesting character, but I wasn't massively compelled by her. But this issue's done the most for her that anything has. I think it was definitely the strongest the book has had through largely focusing on her. And I think I don't think it just was stronger for focusing on her, but I do generally think the writing it had in what it looked at for her and the things we got to see of her past and the characterization and sort of her neuroticism and how big an impact that is in her, and getting to see a bit more of how that was for her early in using the ring. I do think all of that was a step up in how it was handling her characterization and how it's led to who she's become, and that the writing itself was genuinely stronger, as well as it benefiting from focusing on the better character.
Yeah, they stepped up their game, certainly. I would agree with all of that.
Yeah, and so moving on to the only Rebirth book of the week, and a bit different from this recent run of these books of being good or having their strongest issues, we've got Justice League Rebirth. Kev, what did you think?
I thought it was really poor. I think it's the worst book I've read so far. I think it truly did a terrible job of selling Rebirth as this fresh new direction. I think that the book was extremely derivative. It really did just feel like an amalgamation of a lot of recent entertainment and didn't really bring anything itself to the table. I thought it was simplistic at times. I thought the dialogue was sometimes wooden, and there was sort of this awkward token banter that was just really by the numbers. So overall, the book just did nothing to really garner optimism or interest for the future, which is a shame because I do love the Justice League, but this book really wasn't the book I was looking for.
Yeah. And Greg, how did you feel?
Well, first of all, I'm going to tell you, like, the position I was in when I was reading this book, okay? So I was lying on the bed, my head on a comfy pillow, and I had the book like this, okay? So all of a sudden, I felt really uncomfortable, and I noticed only a few pages in, the book had shat on me, right on my chest. That's how bad it was. And I felt really uncomfortable from that moment onwards, and I just knew the book was bad. But when a book shits on you that hard and that bad, you just know that it's not something you're going to really enjoy. So, hey, I'm probably not going to mention the position I was in when I was reading other comics, mostly because I was enjoying them. But just so happened I was in that particular position reading this one. It just made it just ruined everything much more.
Did you at least have some good cleaning supplies on hand?
Thankfully I did. Thankfully I just stocked up, so I immediately dealt with that. But I went back and finished the book, and I'm not going to even tell you what happened there.
After that.
Yeah, it was messy. But yeah, it was, and I am being serious. It was awful experience. But from a comic book, it's awful. But yeah, the art as well. That's the main thing I'm really gonna mention here is, when you go to these conventions and you see men dressed as Wonder Woman, like that generally is how I felt when I seen this art. I thought it was Steve Trevor in a Wonder Woman outfit at one point. The art was that bad. It was so inconsistent from page to page. I didn't know what it wanted to be. And again, a lot of people probably feel missold that they see this really good Tony Daniel art on the cover, and then they just flip through the pages and see this atrocity. It was just awful. And I'll leave you. Obviously, you guys have already kind of mentioned the actual storytelling of the book, which wasn't much better, but the art was stinking, and that wasn't just the shit on my chest. Like, it was bad, man. It was bad.
Something that was definitely an issue for me with the book as well is I really got this sense that no one in DC is talking. Like, editors aren't making sure that the writers are on the same page, because in Superman's own book and in Action Comic, we have this Superman that feels like he needs to step into the position to take over from New 52 Superman and can't leave the world without a Superman. And Lois is the one who is kind of finding it hard to deal with having to give up this family life to some extent to allow him to be Superman. And then in this book, we get that exact dynamic 110% reversed, and Superman doesn't want to be Superman and give up this family structure, and Lois is the one having to convince him. And you can make an argument that they're both going to find it hard to deal with and it hit them at different times, but it didn't feel that way. It felt like writers just aren't on the same page, and we're getting entirely conflicting directions from Superman here. And on the front of characters as well, the biggest issue for me is that Hitch is not writing Barry in this book. The Flash in that book isn't Barry. He's the Flash from the Justice League cartoon. He's Wally from 20 years ago, where Wally hasn't even acted like that for 20 years. Never mind Barry. And it's such a disservice to take a character and paint them over as just a stereotype of what people remember from a show rather than write them as who they are. And it was a big issue that all Flash gets to do in this issue is crack wise like he did in Justice League, and there's no representation of who he is. And what we do get is entirely different from the character he is. So those were definitely big issues for me on top of the other list of issues the comic definitely had. So moving on to a book that's been going strong since the start and quite a favourite, we've got Green Arrow 2. Kev, how did you feel?
Yeah, really liked it once again. I think it's solidly in my top 3. I think I'd fail if I didn't first mention, give a shout out, I guess, to Diggle, who is clearly the world's greatest private security in that issue.
Closest we have to James Bond.
Yeah, he sure is. But yeah, on the whole, I really liked it. And the gripe that I've been talking about for a few weeks on the show is the dialogue being an issue for me. But in this issue, there was definitely progress. It was less frequently an issue. It did still crop up every now and then, such as there's this part where there's a lot of build-up from Black Canary, and it ends with this sort of stamp of bring the heart. And it's just, it undermines the book at times because it's dealing with some great stuff, and then you get these lines that just bring it down a notch. But it is less of a problem, like I said, and on the whole, I think that the book's in a great position going forward.
I do agree, and something that's been a standout since the Rebirth in issue 1, but we've not really given it the dues it deserves in talking about it, is the art, which I think not only has it been amazing since day 1, but I think in this issue especially it was really given a chance to shine. Yep. And there was one page especially that I think is the best we've seen of the book, where Ollie's passed out and we're getting to see his dreams, and you have this single page of him sort of falling through from Laura at the top, that's kind of his angel holding up and what he wants to cling to, and falling through all these other things that are tearing him down and bringing him down to zero, and how Ollie changes as he's falling down through. And it was amazing to see, and the art genuinely has been amazing. One other thing I really like is the direction it's taking, where we're seeing Ollie torn down to absolutely nothing. Everyone in his life is either having to turn away or actually outright betraying him, and it's leaving the guy with absolutely nothing. And we're seeing an Ollie that's going to have to fight back up. He's not got his riches. It's somewhat similar to how we'd seen Ollie before the New 52 at times, and again, kind of similar to how he had to build himself back upon the island and all such things. It's a journey we've seen Ollie undertake before, but it's a journey that definitely works well for the character, and I am interested to see it going forward again. And moving out to the last book of this week, we've got Superman 2. Kev, how did you feel?
Yeah, I mean, I'll give Wonder Woman a chance to respond because it's an issue behind right now, but Superman, as of now, is my favourite book post-Rebirth. I have loved it since the first issue, but this was the one where it truly came together for me. It's basically dealing with Superman taking John on a mission to teach him the ways of being Superman and what it means to be him, because one day he's going to have that responsibility and he'll have to take up the mantle. It was weirdly reminiscent of me to The Lion King in a way, when Mufasa takes a young Simba like around the kingdom to show him what it means to be king and the responsibilities that await him in life. But I thought it was really charming, it was really heartwarming, and it was just great to see how this father and son dynamic is continually developing. And we also got to see John coming clean about the shocking events that happened in the previous issue. And there was just this weight that came off, and it was really represented in the book itself. So yeah, for me as of now, it's the best book currently going.
Yeah, and Greg, how did you feel?
I remember telling you guys last time that I didn't dislike the first issue, but it wasn't one of my favorites. But I did decide to stick with the second issue, and I read it, and I thought it was amazing. It was really good. So that made me go back and read the first issue, and back to back, they really were really, really amazing books. So I'm kind of with Kev right now, where it quickly has jumped maybe to not my favorite DC book, but it's certainly in probably my second favorite. And on those two issues alone, Action Comics dealt with Superman, just battling everything. Sorry, what?
Punching people.
Punching people with a pulse and just just flying around and just being that guy as he is in every other Superman book, which is kind of why they've always had such a bad rep for a number of years. I mean, before this Superman book, I honestly can't remember the last really good one. Maybe All-Star Superman by Morrison. Like that's how long ago it was. But yeah, this book obviously different from Action because it dealt with Superman behind the scenes when he's at home. As Chris said earlier, it's kind of like it was Smallville, but with Clark and Lois, looking after John and the responsibilities that he'll have in the future, and just basically just teaching him the ways of being someone and how difficult it's going to be and how he's going to stand out, someone with all this power, but how he's going to have to hide it and have these responsibilities and just deal with it, and how he's going to really have a lot of struggles and difficulty dealing with those particular things. So it was really just nice to see the dynamic between those two characters and Lois as well. So the three characters really, and just things that you normally wouldn't really see Superman do in a comic. So the one scene that stood out to me was Lois just kind of chatting with Superman and just kind of aiding and seeing to his wounds inflicted by John. So normally that would just kind of not be addressed at all. That would, you would just not really see the aftermath of that. And if Superman, he did say it was pretty damn sore. It was just keep going. It's hurting me, but keep going because we're going to end up defeating this. And you never really would have seen that addressed, but now actually seeing that conversation take place with Lois and Superman obviously hurting a little, it was really just interesting, and it opened up the book and really gave it an identity, and straight away what this book is trying to accomplish. And it's only 2 issues in. I mean, obviously we're not counting the Rebirth issue, so it's been so impressive. I know you'll only add to the good things that we can say about this, Chris.
Yeah, I really loved the second issue. I think it's been amazing. I love how it followed on. We got this. The first issue kind of set a direction that we weren't sure where it was going to go, where he has that accident with his powers. It makes him fearful of his own powers, and then you get Superman in the Justice League painted from his point of view kind of in an alarming light. And then we get this issue that is made to worry, and it's almost made you to feel his sort of struggle and his sort of outlook, and then you have this issue where the weight comes off and you get to see Superman. What I really loved was Superman took him on this mission because he'd realised what had happened in the first issue, and this was the best way he thought. Rather than just sitting down and talking to him like a parent, he takes him out and lets him see what it means to be Superman and lets him see the good these powers can bring if you learn to use them, and this is the best way to teach him that yes, these powers can be dangerous, but they can also be used to help people and make him try to feel comfortable having these powers. And I did feel that was really strong, and I love this journey of just seeing John learn what it means to have these powers and what it means to be the son of Superman and having to look up to that role one day. And I also really loved, for a slightly different reason, I loved that same scene you did, Greg, with Superman when he's getting patched up by Lois, where I just loved this sort of in the field with John. He gets blasted by John by accident. He's like, oh, it doesn't even hurt, don't worry about it, you can't hurt me. And then, like, 10 minutes later, you see he was just kind of showboating and his back's like a mess, and he was just putting on this big show, and it was a really great moment for the guy.
You can see in the art, though, on those particular panels that Superman's kind of just like, oh shit, okay, that does hurt, but let's be the big man here, and let's just give him his moment and fight on through this. And then obviously, later on he's like, well, that didn't turn out so great. I mean, the job was done, but I'm a mess, So it was cool seeing that, because normally, again, that's something you never see. It was funny. It was a funny scene as well.
Yeah, but no, I do think the book's been really strong, and I do feel this whole family unit's elevating all of the characters. But yeah, so that's our thoughts on week 5 of DC Rebirth. Let us know what you thought below. Like, comment, and subscribe, and stay tuned for more DC Rebirth videos in the future.